My name is Dave Kosak. I'm the lead quest designer for World of WarCraft, and I'm also responsible for a lot of the story and lore of the world that we shape as part of the team.
Okay, great. Well, I think I'm going to have to start with the obvious question first, and that's about scenarios.
Yes.
This is something you've just announced at BlizzCon. They sound fantastic. And the whole idea is it's kind of going to take over the whole point of group questing more than anything else.
Yeah.
Can you give people kind of a rough feel for what's going to happen for them?
Sure. So scenarios, I got to tell you, we're still experimenting with this. We're still playing around with it, so we don't know exactly what the final layout will be. But you mentioned group quests, and I think we always loved the idea of group quests, but they always had so much overhead. I mean, you had to try and get some people together. They all had to be on the same stage of the quest. You would try and do the quest. Another party would come in and they would be in the middle of the quest, and it could be really frustrating. So we still love that idea, and it's part of being an MMO. Scenarios are going to allow you to have that kind of content, and it'll really be presented well. It'll be its own instance. You're going to be able to queue up. You don't need to have any roles, so you don't need to have a tank or healer. It's whatever you are, come as you are. And you'll get this great staged content delivery where you have to, complete phase 1, and then you go on to the next phase, and then suddenly the town is being attacked, and you got to defend it, and then you get to kill a boss, and you get this great little story progression, some neat rewards at the end, and then off you go. You're back in the world. We like this a lot, and it's going to fit in a couple possible niches in the game. One niche is right now you have daily quests and faction quests. We thought scenarios would work really well into that. So you're working with a particular faction, you do some daily quests, you jump into their scenario, you get a lot of faction reputation, you help them out with a big problem. That's cool. And we see that as like a smaller kind of 3 players or so in a group, nice, tight, focused content. We also have the idea of really doing big, what we call PvE battlegrounds with it. So that's you get, I don't know, we don't know the final numbers, maybe 10 people, we're going to see how that feels, right? You get 10 people together, the queue should be practically instant because all you need is 10 people, doesn't matter what they are, and then you get almost like a battlegrounds type of flow where instead of it being against other players, you're fighting against the NPCs. So capture some flags, take some points, capture the big fortress, kill the bad guy, you kind of stage through this big battlefield, and you can be as coordinated or uncoordinated as you want, and just really have a lot of fun with other players. And it helps that that casual player that doesn't really want to raid have a lot of stuff to do in the game, and that's what's most exciting about it for me. I'm always looking at ways to keep all of our players engaged.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, from my point of view, I'm a bit of a raider, but from the sounds of these scenarios, it's like something to do when I'm not raiding that I'll still get that flavour from. I'll still get that kind of, and I can almost see, because obviously you've also mentioned the challenge modes that are coming out soon, as well as the kind of raid finder levels.
Right.
So I can almost see these being the precursor to that. You start off doing the scenarios, and you're like, actually, working with 10 people is really fun. I'm going to move on to the raid finder.
Right. And then you do a real challenge with the raid, and then
and then you can kind of move on from that.
Right, we kind of have something for every skill level. You mentioned challenge modes, and that's something that's specifically for people that are really kind of hardcore skill based. You want to prove how good you are, and so you run a dungeon mode in a challenge, and your gear level is going to be set.
Yeah.
So it's all about skill. It's all about coordination.
Exactly.
And then you can kind of brag find out your time, and then post it you share it with the rest of your guild. You can see how everybody ranks.
And see how everyone competes, and then you can just see the competition level.
Exactly, and then we really think that's a great way to play the game. It gives you another something to show your skill. Yeah.
Are they just going to be, since we're on the topic of challenge modes, obviously you've got challenge modes and they're going to be timed, but is there going to be conditions applied to that? Like, you must complete it within under 20 minutes, but no one must die. Are you going to have that sort of level of thing?
We have the tech to do that. I don't think we're planning on doing that right now. I think we're going to try and keep it simple, but
let's see how it flows.
Right, but maybe the gold level requires no one dies. Something like that. I mean, we might. It's not too hard for us to do, so we're gonna play with that and see what feels good.
Brilliant.
Yeah.
I'm going to drag us back to these quests, and specifically, obviously, you've got the Pandarias coming around, and you've got Pandaria, and it looks, from the stuff we've seen already, it looks absolutely beautiful.
Thank you.
I'm kind of wondering how the quests are going to work with that, because obviously we have the standard quests in Azeroth and Outland, and a lot of them are go out and maybe slay 20 things, or standard quest content that's all really great. But are you planning on making any kind of, because obviously you've got the new monk class coming out, the Pandaras, are you going to try and fit in some quests specifically for monks, in the sense of kind of getting more of the flavour of monks out, or are you just kind of sticking with the tried, tested and great format already?
Well, it's an interesting question, like class quests specifically.
Exactly.
we love them, but they can be very time consuming. And you know, if we did particular really cool quest change, similar to what we do for legendary quests for every individual class, that's a pretty significant time investment for the quest team. And so we're always judging like, okay, we could do that or like half a zone. Which do we want to do? Right. So we love the idea of class content. We'd like to do lots of special stuff, but we always are balancing the time it takes to create that content. You had another half of that question. I forget.
More kind of about quests in Pandaria. I mean, obviously, are you going to have a lot? Obviously, there's a certain format to quests that work. You know, you go out, you kill this mob, you come back, the quest reward is complete. But have you got any specific ideas for different flavors for Pandaria? You know, kind of fitting more, because obviously the idea of Pandaria again is a lot more wise, a lot more sage, a lot less. Almost, obviously, there's some.
But depending
violence.
on who you're talking with, Pandaria.
Depending on which faction you're talking to. Are you going to try and get more? Kind of a bit more flavored quests for Pandaria?
Yeah, I think that when you think about what good quest design is, like often people imagine that it's like come up with crazy ideas for quests so that they don't have to go out and kill 10 guys. And that's not really what a quest designer's job is. It's really to get you out in the world, experiencing all the content, and get you to play your class. So, you know, killing 10 things, that's not a complicated mechanic, but it gets you out there and it gets you being a rogue and such. So we don't want to eschew that, right? In fact, we kind of want to make sure that you have a lot of opportunities to just be your class. We're really trying to keep the questing. You know, one reason we don't have flying mounts is we want you grounded, we want you in the world, we want you interacting with the world. And what we're trying to do is integrate story into the quests, not like reading quest text, but just have story all around you, have just this rich environment around you. So, you know, when you go kill 10 guys, something crazy happens afterwards, and then you got to go take care of this problem, something else happens. And so you're going out doing these core mechanics that let you play your class, but all this story is just kind of pulling you in, and there's lots of stuff going on. I know I'm being a little bit vague, but I hope you can see some of it on the show floor. You know, we try and have that opening area, and we haven't quite, you know, that 1 through 10 experience isn't finished yet, obviously. There's a whole lot of very cinematic kind of story stuff happening toward the end that isn't really in the demo build yet, but I think people are going to be really impressed when they see it all come together and have these moments where, you know, you get to talk to the giant turtle island, and then you get to kind of move around, discover the Alliance and Horde. It should be pretty powerful. We're really aiming at giving you a lot of story while still letting you play your class.
Brilliant. I mean, one thing I was thinking of as well of asking you is obviously in Cataclysm you had Molten Flow and that massive quest hub but you brought it in kind of a lot later on in Cataclysm that came in more at the end. It's a brilliant idea, and I thought it really worked really quite well. It really helped me as a player to come and go, alright, I'm going to go there and stuff will happen. It's great.
Which was great because you said you were a raider, but it compelled you to play this.
So I'll let you finish.
Okay, yeah, well, so we're always playing with content. We're always trying to experiment things. And that was an experiment in a lot of ways because it had a progression to it, which we thought was really cool. And we tried very hard. We didn't make it phasing so that you were always with other people. It always felt like a big battle was going there no matter what phase of the content you were in. And we really liked it, and just looking at how people are playing the game, that was very popular with a lot of people. And again, it's hitting those people that maybe they don't want to raid, but they still want to do something with their high-level character, and it felt really good. So we're taking that idea, and we're definitely playing that across in Pandaria. We're trying to find all kinds of ways to give max-level players a whole lot of stuff to do. And that kind of progression, you know, once you're at max level, you progress through something. We like that a lot. So you're going to see more of that in Pandaria. The scenarios as well is another thing to do with your max level character. We're really trying to make factions interesting, the scenarios interesting, all that kind of stuff, so that once you hit level 90, there's still a lot of game for you. That's a real main goal. I think we said at the very beginning of our first presentation, one of our main goals is to give everybody a lot of content to stay engaged with the game.
So you're planning something like Molten Flow on release for Pandaria, or is that going to maybe come in later on?
It'll be on release. This is the current plan, This is the current plan. We're building it. Actually, we're right when we get back from BlizzCon. We're playing with a lot of those ideas to get that ready.
Awesome. That's going to be great. So I've got to ask you the obvious question. What's your favourite quest you've ever put in so far? Is there one that really stands out and you've gone, yeah, I love that?
You know,
There's hundreds.
I have a
thousands.
I have a lot of favorites. I like how Southern Barons came together, and I love that if you play that zone as Alliance and Horde, you get really different opinions of the same event.
Yeah.
I particularly love the Horde quest at the end where you blow up Belmodan. You go and sneak in, sabotage the bomb. So that was really good. I put a quest in Mount Highjaw that I love, and I actually kind of love the reaction to it that people get. I put in the quest that was based off the old arcade game Joust, where you flap to
That was amazing.
so it's so funny because like depending on what year you were born, you love or hate that quest. Like so you're like, I don't understand. Why am I flapping? I don't get this. It's really funny to me. We made the quest optional, so we didn't. And unfortunately, it's very frustrating for people that click their mouse button on the thing instead of using keyboard shortcuts. So that's a problem with that quest. But I love it. Prepare to joust, buzzard bait. I love that one. I also did the chucking the bears onto the trampolines in Mount Highjaw.
That was such an amazing quest and cost me so many hours of frustration with these bears. I thought that was brilliant.
Yeah, you'd be surprised how many bugs a quest like that can generate.
Yeah.
I built it. It took like a week to build. And then 2 weeks to debug. As people are like, no, I'm stuck in a tree. Oh, now there's bears. There's a bear stuck to me. But I think it turned out great. It's a nice little break in the middle of. Well, again, we talk about what good quest flow is. There's a whole lot of killing stuff. There's a whole lot of action going on, and so that quest is in the middle of all that. There's a nice break. You get to kind of take a break, rescue some wildlife, fling some bears. It's funny. Then you're back to killing stuff. Yeah.
What do you think of Pandarans? Because are they becoming your new favorite race, or?
They are a lot of fun to deal with, especially after. I mean, Cataclysm was a very dark expansion, right? And so it's one of our main reasons we did what we're doing with Pandaria. And as a race, they're really interesting to play around with. I mean, they work hard, they play hard, they eat hard, they drink hard, they fight hard when they need to. But on the whole, they're very relaxed, they're very chill, and it's actually one of the ideas we're playing around with the expansion is Pandaria itself is kind of haunted with if you bring negative energy to Pandaria, it kind of is made incarnate, and that's what the Shah is that we talk about in the lore panel. This negative energy. So, if you're really angry or filled with despair or doubt, it can actually kind of manifest itself and come back and bite you, literally. So as a result, the Pandaren are pretty chill. They try and keep it low key. That's why inner harmony and focus and balance is really important to them. It's kind of almost a survival mechanism.
Exactly.
And I'm sure you can imagine the story possibilities when the Alliance and Horde come onto this continent with all their baggage and all this stuff is made manifest. It's a really neat idea, I think.
I can't wait to see that in action, an actual Horde and Alliance on the same beach as well, which is quite interesting. Instead of the usual, like in any other one, Horde and Alliance have always had separate starting zones, and generally they don't meet until they hit the middle, and that's where everything explodes. But in this one, you've got us on the same beach, you've got everyone hitting the same beach, and you could
somewhat. You're kind of on opposite ends of the zone, converging on the middle, so it'll be pretty nasty. The real interesting part is in subsequent patches when the invasion comes. Because really, the players when we launch Mists of Pandaria, the players are kind of the forefront of. They're kind of the vanguard, the scouts, the expeditionary force. It's not like Northrend where there's a massive invasion, right? It's this is strange land, and you're one of the few representatives of the Horde or Alliance in it when you originally quest, and it's in the subsequent patches that
suddenly
that
everyone
descends on Pandaria, and that'll be interesting to play on.
And I guess the last thing I really want to ask about is obviously with Pandarans, you're planning on them being able to choose. And that's going to be a really interesting way of, I think for quests anyway, that's going to be really interesting to play out. Do you guys have anything in mind for how that's going to, are you planning it to just, obviously I'm guessing you're not planning it to be, you woke up, you click a button, you're Horde, congratulations.
Well, we don't want to make it too complicated either.
Exactly.
So the way it works, and you can see this if you play the 1 through 10 demo, the way it works is we try and, through the questing, kind of introduce you to the Alliance and their ideals, and the Horde and their ideals. There's a problem that they have to solve, and there's kind of Alliance and Horde ways of solving the problem, which jive naturally with the different Pandaren ways of solving problems. So you kind of have some representatives of the different factions. And it comes together, you see both, you interact with both, and then only after sort of the problem has been solved, then you kind of have to make the choice like, well, who do I really want to represent as we go out and venture forth in the world? And you know, at the end of the day, it is a nice dialogue that you can say, "I'm a horde for life." You know, so we're not going to make it too complicated
No,
than that,
no.
but we try and kind of present a neat story before you have to make that decision.
choice.
Yeah.